Hello everyone, my name is T Hunter. If this is your first time coming to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back and thank you so much for coming back. So you already know what it is, another review, Therapist Reacts to Married at First Sight. So I'll just have to admit I have been a little bit thrown off with this review. Simply because we did not get to see all of the 5 couples get married because unfortunately Ben had tested positive for COVID, but as of last week we got to see the wedding episode for him and Morgan. Clearly he tested negative for COVID, so they were able to have their wedding, and I'm assuming they'll meet up with the other couples later on as far as the honeymoon was concerned, since they were not able to go at the original date of departure. But anyways, the last shall be first. Let's just jump right into Ben and Morgan. I noticed that on the wedding day, Morgan, when she was having her conversations about, marriage and what's important to her with her bridesmaids as well as her mother, she was saying, even leading up to the wedding day, how her independence is very important and that she hopes her future husband would be able to accept that quality and he would be able to respect the fact that she is independent. And I think that's great. There is nothing wrong with being an independent woman. I just really hope that if Ben were to be more of a traditional type of husband, not saying she can't work, but more of the, I don't want you to have to worry about things. So if you needed to take some time off, or if you wanted to switch careers, don't worry about how are we going to make ends meet. I'm your husband. I'm going to cover you. Like, I hope that wouldn't be a trigger for her. Yeah, it was great that she also highlighted a lot of growth that she has achieved. She was able to get in better shape after coming out of, I believe she had mentioned, a not so positive relationship. And it seemed to have taken a toll on her. So it was good to see that she was able to, commit to her overall health and wellness. That's always a plus, because toxic relationships, they can take a really strong negative toll on our emotional, our mental space, even our physical, and sometimes even, our spiritual connection for those of us who, do believe in a higher power, whether you're a Christian or what have you. Sometimes those toxic relationships can drain so much of your hope that even the very, your hope and your faith can sometimes be tested as well. And you'll start to wonder, well, in my case, since I'm Christian, well, if God loves me so much, why in the world would I have to suffer through a relationship where maybe my self-esteem was shattered? My hopes and dreams as far as being in a healthy relationship were just torn to pieces. Sometimes you'll have those questions. So it was definitely good to see her say that she was able to bounce back. I guess my thoughts about Morgan and her highlights around her independence are, is she independent by choice, or did she have to be an independent woman by default? The reason I asked those questions is because she mentioned she had a very poor relationship with her father. And I would want to further explore, what did a poor relationship look like? Was he present at all, or was it just really difficult for you to connect with each other because you had different opinions on things, different mindsets around traditional gender roles, or what was going on? I would definitely want to know that. Why do you not have a good relationship with your daughter, Dad? Because on the wedding day, she made sure to mention to Ben, I don't know if you noticed, but, or as you saw, I came down the aisle by myself. I did not want anyone to give me away. I wanted to give myself to you. I wonder if she would have had the same mindset if she had had a better relationship with her father. Would she have let him give her away, or would it have still been, no, I got this, I'm independent. Thanks, Dad, but no thanks. We don't know. Okay, so as far as Ben is concerned, we know that he is very mindful of his spending and living, beneath his means. I don't have any problem with a man or woman who decides to, use coupons, whether you're doing extreme couponing, whatever. If that's what makes you happy and it saves you money, you're not hurting anybody. Okay, live your life. Do you? I just hope that this is not going to be a barrier as far as his ability to connect with Morgan and them to develop like a deeper level of intimacy. Because if she values traveling and she's saying, hey, I want to go to Japan because that's where my family's from. And even though he said, oh, yeah, so sorry that I tested positive for COVID and our wedding was delayed and, the second honeymoon is on me, my treat. I wonder if he will be open to traveling outside of major milestones like anniversaries and whatnot. Yeah. I guess another thing that I was not raising red flags, but just, making a mental note as far as a concern is Ben is the self-proclaimed mama's boy. I don't know exactly what his relationship with his mother looks like because I'm not in it. However, I wonder if it's I'm wondering if Ben is the type of man who would say, I admire these traits about my mother, so now that it is time for me to choose a wife, I would like to pick someone who reminds me of my mother. Or would he be the type of man where now it's always a running competition between mom and wife? Because if it's the latter, that is going to be a problem. So I just really hope that that's not the case. And we don't know. We will definitely see as the season plays out. Because anytime that you are pitting two people against each other, any possibility for them to have a positive relationship is going to be strained. Unless those two people are mature enough to see, hey, we are not supposed to be competing against each other. You are not my enemy. I am not yours. You are not competition. We both can have a relationship. In this case, Morgan and his mother can both have a relationship with Ben because they're going to serve different capacities. She's your mother. No replacement for that. Whereas Morgan's going to be his wife. So she's going to have her own unique role and unique standing in his heart. So we will see how this pans out for the rest of the season. Okay, moving on. Let's just go ahead and jump into Mitch and Kristen. And I'm sorry if the lighting is kind of going away. I decided to film in a different spot today, so we'll see. See how that goes. Oh, it's dark. All right, I think that's a little bit better. Okay, so Mitch and Kristen. Ooh, so the day after the wedding, the new spouses, they sit down with their in-laws, separate, from their spouse. So Mitch, in his sit down with Kristen, he just kept highlighting a lot of the things that he mentioned in the wedding episode with Kristen, such as, I'm not really a guy who's into glam. So I'm, looking forward to seeing her in her day-to-day routine, not a lot of makeup, not a lot of glam whatsoever. And I was thinking, why do you have to mention that to her family? Like, okay, like it's one thing to be completely honest. It's one thing to, live a life of transparency. And it's another to just, sometimes you overshare and you say things where it's like, that detail probably could have been left out of this conversation. So I'm confused that Mitch was so adamant about low glam, low maintenance. But when he saw his future mother-in-law, he didn't seem too disappointed at how she was looking. And he almost seemed kind of happy, like, oh, is that my wife? Because if so, yeah. Okay. Like, he seemed open to it. And she was just as glammed up as Kristen was. Her hair was done. She had on a, nice dress. Yeah, that was just confusing to me. And it goes back to my thoughts from my previous video where I said sometimes we can just be so picky and we can continually move the goalpost when we know that the person we're in a relationship with, we're not attracted to them in Mitch and Kristen's case, or we just know good and well, like, this just isn't going to work. I'm not really interested in forming a very strong bond with you. So no matter what you do, it's never going to be enough because I don't want all of the things from you. I want it from someone else. Kristen was definitely getting an earful in that family brunch where they were saying, they were sharing a lot of the negative aspects of Mitch as far as how he handles himself when he is stressed, or how sometimes if he is not in the best of moods, perhaps he could present as condescending. And I'm thinking to myself, this is going to be a train wreck if Mitch does not take steps to pivot away from these negative behaviors, especially as he's engaging with, his new spouse. Because she doesn't know him, he doesn't know her, and it's definitely going to work in her favor that Kristen has acknowledged that she is an assertive woman, that she can, advocate for her needs, and she can speak up for herself. So instead of just going along with whatever, Mitch's program might be, it's good to know that Kristen is already prepared to, pipe up and say something instead of, well, I'm just so happy to be married that if this is what comes along with marriage, I guess I will accept it. No, no. So we will see how that goes. Next couple, Miguel and Lindy. Once again, we have these conversations with the family, and they're just crossing all types of boundaries and hitting on very intimate topics. And you've only known your new son-in-law, new sister-in-law for a day. Why? There will be time to get to know each other. Let's not scare them off in the first two conversations by asking them these very complex questions and making them have these very intimate dialogues with you, and they don't know you. Like, I cringed when Lindy's brother and the mother, once again, they brought up their religion and how they see sex within a marriage within the biblical context. Well, when you sleep with someone, you know them. And I'm thinking, sir, he does not believe in a higher power. So he's not reading the Bible to get a better understanding of what knowing someone means in regards to sex. Can we just take that off the table? Ask this man, what's your favorite color? Are you into sports? Hey, here's some great date ideas because my sister's into theater. You take her to an opera show, it's gonna be awesome. Just why not the surface level first? Can we tap that first? I don't know. And this episode, Miguel's sister wasn't any better, saying, well, your two zodiac signs are not compatible. Ma'am, you could pretty much be speaking another language to her, and it's completely irrelevant. Because if she doesn't value zodiac signs the way that you do, any input that you have to offer around the compatibility of their signs, she's not internalizing that and taking that in. And also, Lindy's new sister-in-law, Priscilla, had mentioned, finances. And Lindy was very clear, like, yes, I do have student loans. I do have debt, from the education that I have achieved. And she's saying, yeah, I just don't want my brother to pretty much have to like shoulder the burden by himself. And Lindy and Miguel hadn't even had that conversation with each other yet. So why is sister bringing it up? Like, it's okay for you to be concerned. Uh, and you can be concerned and use a filter and say to yourself, hey, finances might be something that I don't need to touch on because this isn't my relationship. This isn't my spouse. I get to be sister in law. I get to bond with you and get to know you in that lane. Let me stay in it. So while Lindy's brother and Miguel's sister might not have meant any harm, they could indirectly be sabotaging potential relationships with their new siblings in law simply because they're asking the wrong questions and having these intricate conversations far too early on in their budding relationship with these strangers. One thing that I did notice was Lindy was talking to Miguel and saying, expressing different concerns. Like, I guess she might not be the most comfortable, confident traveler when it comes to being on an airplane. And she was, the way that they edited her clips, it made it seem like she was just going on and on and on and on. And Miguel was sitting there like, oh gosh. So I can already tell that her anxious spirals, for lack of a better term, are going to be something that Miguel is going to be monitoring, and hopefully, he can process, hey, like, how do I feel when she gets into spiral mode? Because at this point, I don't know her, so I don't know how to intervene just yet because I don't know the cheat code. So we we will definitely see how this pans out. So I went ahead and turned on the overhead light because I didn't want to be given the vibe of, oh, I'm trying to put you to sleep. All right, so moving forward to the next couple. Um, who do I want to tackle? You know what? Let's go with Nate and Stasha. So at the family brunch between Nate, his mother-in-law, and two of Stasha's friends, I thought it was very admirable that Nate was able to be vulnerable so soon. Um, as far as his vision for family, his vision for his marriage, and it seems like he really wanted to succeed. I thought it was great that he gave some history and some background as far as his relationship with his father and why they are so close. And it was heart wrenching when Nate acknowledged that he would spend so much time enjoying the company of his friends at his friends' houses because they had two-parent households. And he noted that he did not grow up with his mother. And the last time he saw her, he was 12 years old. She came to his birthday party, and, I guess other family members were saying, oh, like, this is your mom. And she gave him a hug, and that was pretty much it. And they have not kept in touch since. And I thought, I can't even imagine how difficult that would be. I am the product of parents who have been married over 40 years. So it's one thing to be the product of a divorce, and it's another to have a parent who is completely absent from your life. So this, similar to what was going on with, Morgan and her relationship with her father, her saying they didn't have a good relationship. With Nate, his relationship with his mother was non-existent. And I know oftentimes we hear, well, men need their fathers because, only men can raise men. I still don't think that it's fair to say, well, you grew up with your father, so as a man, you're good. Because clearly he wasn't. He broke down crying, expressing, his hopes and his dreams for establishing, a healthy marriage and establishing a strong family. And the reason why he wanted marriage and family so badly is because he got to see his friends have it. And he's saying, you know what? My mother might not be here. I might not have a relationship with her, but I want to be with someone where the two of us, we forge a bond together, we get married, and our kids see us, and we have our own family. And we're pouring into them, we're investing into them, and we're present. So definitely pulling for Nate. Um, because I can't imagine the trauma. I can't imagine, the many unanswered questions he may have had as a kid. And with his dad being in the military, that means that they moved every so often. So, it's one thing to, be a military kid and you're moving and you have both parents versus you're a military kid living with the parent who is actively enrolled in the services, and the other parent, you're not sure where they are. So he didn't get, that balance of while dad is away, mom is here. And then when dad's back, okay, now, it's the three of us. So I would just say Nate and Morgan are prime examples of why it is important for kids to have both parents. Even if the parents decide, I don't want to be in a marriage with you anymore, and they decide to get a divorce, or if they were never married and decided to never be with each other, as far as a romantic relationship is concerned, not being present for the child, it has its effects. It really does. So, just heart definitely breaks for both Nate and Morgan as they expressed why they only have a relationship with one parent. But moving forward to Stasha's brunch with Nate's father and friend, I thought it was great that the friend acknowledged, hey, like both of you are ambitious, and I think he referred to them both as workaholics. So there's the question of where are you going to create time and balance for each other outside of work? Because when you're single, that is your time to be selfish. That is your time to work on your business, to work on your degrees if you're going to school, to try to take those next steps towards elevating yourself in your career or whatever it is that you're trying to do. When you're single, you have all of that time to just focus on being the best version of yourself and taking steps to get there. But once you get married, it's no longer just you. You have to consider this other person's feelings. Like, yes, it's great that you're working a job, and it's great that you are providing, and it's great that you're bringing in income and you're not missing rent, you're not missing meals. However, what if you're missing each other because you're working so much? Now date night isn't a priority. Now sitting down and locking in and having those intimate, vulnerable, difficult conversations, now that's not necessarily top on the list because, oh, I got to go to work, or I got to do this thing for my business. I have to do, turn this hobby into a grind that's going to bring us another stream of income. So it's good that the friend acknowledged that. And I like that Stasha seemed open to at least sit in that moment and say, yeah, you're right. That is something that I am going to have to navigate, being married. That work cannot be number one all of the time if I expect to have a healthy, thriving marriage, if I expect to be able to connect with Nate. Well, especially because they are strangers. Nate doesn't know where Stasha's coming from. If she's working, late hours. He would just know, well, yeah, I understand you're busy and you're working, and I understand that I'm busy when I'm working. However, at what point do we, turn off the busyness mode and lock into each other? So I thought it was cute when the father said, yeah, just don't break my son's heart. Yeah, so definitely looking forward to like more stories that Nate will tell about his relationship with his father, because he said his father did everything for him, and that's why they are so close, and he just really loves and admires him for the very active role he took in his life, in addition to not only being in the military, but being a single father. So, I think it'll be great to see more interactions, hopefully, between, Stasha and Nate's father, and even Nate and his mother in law, Stasha's mother. Yeah, so no one can ever replace your mother. You only get one. No one can replace your father. You only get one. So I'm not saying, oh, it's good that Nate and Stasha got married because now Stasha's mother can replace Nate's mom. No, that will never be possible. However, I think it would be awesome if Nate and his mother in law were to forge a pretty close bond where they can, connect with each other, laugh, find some things in common, or, if he were to go to her with questions about Stasha, like she, could be that strong motherly presence, and also giving him the cheat code because that's her daughter, so she knows her very well. So, yeah, definitely enjoyed um, the the conversations between Nate and Stasha and their in-laws, how they weren't too deep but just enough where they were able to get a good grasp on each other without diving in too deep or getting uncomfortable. Rooting for them, rooting for them. All right, moving on to our final couple, Justin and Alexis. So, when Alexis first sat down with Justin's mother and friend, I definitely cringed when the mother said, "So, how was your night last night?" And she said, "Well, your son's still celibate." Why? Why did you have to mention that? We don't need to know whether or not y'all was getting busy or not. You're married. That's your business. Boundaries. So, Alexis and the mother-in-law and Justin's friend, they were talking about her pattern as far as relationships. What has she done in the past? When things have gotten difficult, what's going to make this relationship and this marriage with Justin different as far as how she's going to, respond to conflict. And, it was good that Alexis noted, yes, I was proposed to 3 times. And the reason why none of those proposals led to a marriage, I didn't even accept the proposal, so I was never engaged, was because she knew those relationships weren't right. They weren't going to thrive in the most positive light. So while it is, I can only imagine how painful it would be to call off an engagement. I don't want to imagine what life would have been like for her if she would have accepted one of those proposals, got married, and then gotten divorced. And seems like, Justin had a similar history, only his first proposal was accepted, and then his ex-fiance called off the engagement. So it was good that Justin's mother acknowledged, like 3 people proposed to you and it didn't work out, Alexis. So what happened? What was wrong? What's going to be different in this relationship with Justin? Because you turned down like 3 potential marriages. So what's going to happen when the rubber meets the road in this one? Are you staying or are you going? And I thought it was great that Alexis, could, take accountability and say, yeah, in the past, I might not have made the best relationship choices. And so I opted not to marry any of those men. But now that I am married, I am definitely committed. I am fully devoted to being a wife and being the wife that stays, as opposed to at the first sign of opposition. See you later, bye. So, yeah, definitely proud of her ability to have those difficult conversations and not jump on the defense. So if only we can get the celibacy jokes to stop, we'll be good to go. So when Justin was sitting down with Alexis' mother and sisters, I I admired their honesty, and once again, they were very they had to have used discernment to not go too deep into the nitty gritty negative details as far as how Alexis could potentially run over him. So instead of saying, so, when you're trying to get your point across and she's cutting you off, or if she happens to cuss at you, what you gonna do? Because we're strong women. No. I'm glad that they said, Alexis has a strong personality, and how are you prepared to advocate for yourself so that her strong personality doesn't overshadow and overpower yours? Because the last thing that needs to happen in a marriage, if you're hoping for it to last and be healthy, is for your spouse to be running all over you. So instead of being seen as a husband, instead of being seen as a wife, you're seen as a doormat. Because this other person is just, they're consuming all of the air in the room. There's never any space for you to have an opinion that differs from theirs. There's never any space for you to even have a voice. So I'm glad that Alexis' family, they weren't bashing her, but just being very honest. Hey, seems like, hey, from their description that she has a strong personality. So how are you prepared to not get lost in the shuffle of it? So you can start to have difficult conversations with strangers and it work out well. I feel like Nate and Stasha's interactions with their in-laws, as well as Justin's and Alexis' interactions with their in-laws, like they were key examples of, okay, like here are some things that you should be aware of, but we're going to stick at the surface level because we don't know you, you don't know us, and you're ultimately going to have to work these things out with your spouse, and I am not them. So it's always good when you can set up boundaries, even around difficult, necessary conversations. So that concludes the family, my thoughts on the family brunches or lunches, the family meetups, we'll say that. I'm excited about seeing what else happens on the honeymoon. Seems like they're already starting things off with a bang, some of these couples, particularly Nate and Stasha. oh, I wonder what the camera crew was thinking though when they were filming all those different angles. Like, hey, it's just part of the job. Let me get this angle real quick. I don't know, because ultimately, the participants of the show can say, "All right, we're done filming for today. You may leave because me and my husband, me and my wife, we about to do some married folk things, and America doesn't need to see everything that we're about to do." I guess Nate and Stasha said, "I don't care who's watching us. I like you, you like me." I definitely chuckled when they were looking at the honeymoon suite, and once they got to the shower, Stasha didn't say, "Oh, this is a nice size shower." She leaned forward towards Nate. "Big enough for two." I was thinking, oh, as Alexis would say, if he with it, I'm with it. So let's get it. All right, enough of my shenanigans. I'm excited to see Ben and Morgan join the other couples on their honeymoon. Excited to see how the rest of the couples enjoy themselves in Mexico. We will definitely be seeing how everything pans out. Well, if you have enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a like, subscribe to my channel for more content, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a future post. Once again, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.